Hey, Herman Williams here. I've got a question I want to ask you about your golf swing. If I asked you what you thought about weight shift when you think about your golf swing, would the answer be that you want to shift or load up to the right if you're a right-handed golfer and then clear your hips to the left for the forward swing? I'm not sure you would say that, but I think most people would answer shift, clear. I'm going to actually try to show you that that might be backwards. And before we go crazy here, let me explain what I mean. When we think about weight shift, we want to be really careful about how we go about positioning ourselves to create that effect. I'm going to back away from the camera right now and show you what I mean. When we think about the setup in golf, I'll turn sideways here. Obviously we're bowed forward. We're also tilted a little bit to the right. When I slide the right hand down the club, naturally the right shoulder moves down, my head moves a little to the right, and I'm in a setup. So I'm bowed forward and slightly to the right, just by virtue of how we have to hold the club and stand at a golf ball. Well, if I make a, quote, shift, I think most people interpret that as moving the legs over, moving the hip over, sort of a sliding motion. We've been told to keep our head still, so we end up at the top of the backswing with this sensation of weight on the right foot and a shift. But you'll notice my core has moved off to the right, out from under my head, and I now have my spine tilted backwards the wrong way. Actually, the classic reverse tilt. So we don't want to do that. And then the question is, well, how do we shift weight in the backswing? I want to show you right now. I want you to visualize you're bowed forward in a setup and take this golf club like a plumb bob hanging straight down from my chest. If I am in that normal setup posture, right shoulder down, leaning away from the target, and simply pivot, just start turning my body, I want you to see how the weight of my trunk or my chest ends up being moved or displaced so that it's hanging over my right foot. I now have most of the weight of my upper body sitting on top of my right foot. That's the way we want to shift weight. My hip will actually pivot. If anything, it's going to move back and around and move away from its starting point. It will not slide off to the right. And that's a big distinction. So for that weight shift, quote, in the backswing, make sure you're set up correctly, bowed forward, little tilt to the right, and pivot. If there were an electric fence sitting right here by your hip, I don't want you to get shocked. Turn off the fence, let your chest move over the right foot. And now the big question that comes to mind is, hey, will my head stay still? And I'm going to answer you definitively, no, it will not stay still. Your head is going to move. Now I know everybody may be confused, but the reason the head must move is it is not the center of your golf swing. I want you to think carefully about that statement. Your spine is the center of your golf swing, your backbone. And the way we're built, you can feel the vertebrae in your neck, your spine running along the rear of your trunk cavity. Your chest and your head and your face and your eyes are more out front from your spine. Now if my spine were fused, I would sit here and turn around my spine and my head and chest would come towards you here in the camera. Do that from the front, turn around my spine. My spine went nowhere, it stayed centered. I simply turned around it. So I want you to think about the way we really would describe a golf swing if we had to be pretty technical about it is it's not the head that stays still, it would be the spine. Rotate around your spine. Make sure your backswing is a true pivot, keeping center in its original location. Because we're slightly tilted when we do it properly, the hip will turn, the chest and head will move to the right and get on top of the back foot. Your head would move, but your spine will not. Now you've achieved all of the correct positions in the backswing. And then the last detail for weight shift would be what we would do in the forward swing. I mentioned at the start of the session, would we just clear? And the answer is no, we would not. If you think of a loaded up position here at the top, coiled into the backswing, I don't want to simply clear my hips. I'll tend to stay on the back foot if I do that. Now I've moved back away from the target. I'll be left unable to reach the golf ball, probably flip at it or scoop at it, or come across it from over the top. So let's assume you've got everything put together now. You've got the right grip, you've got the right posture, the setup. I've got other videos out there to help you with that. We've loaded up to the top, coiled the hip, chest over the back foot. Now you've heard me say this in other videos before. I want to make a lateral movement, kind of a bump. I'll feel it in the left knee, the thigh, the left hip. They're going to move targetward. I've described this to some of my students in private lessons as feeling like you're backing into the target. I want to leave my back facing that target momentarily and begin a lateral shift. That's going to let my arms fall while that happens. Then I'll begin the clearing. So just delay that clearing just a moment so you've got a little bit of time to make a shift to the front foot, and then let the clearing begin going through impact. And that's going to allow you to get those arms slotted on plane, avoid coming over the top. And you know, think particularly too, if you're not as physically gifted as a tour player, I might even admit to you that some of the pros on tour will get right to the top of the swing and think clearing and do it very well. But you know, they're predisposed to do that better than the rest of us maybe. They make their living at it. They're hitting 500 golf balls a day. You know, honestly, us mere mortals, you know, and I include myself in that statement. I'm a golf professional. I play at a pretty high skill level, but I'm not out there at the level that the tour guys are every day, hitting golf balls all the time and working on the fitness and the flexibility that it takes to play at that level. And if you're not doing that either, then I think you want to tailor your golf swing to what would be a reasonable movement. Pivot to get loaded up, get that weight shifted with the plumb bob sensation in the backswing, shift, then clear. I think you'll find that's going to be a much better technique for your overall golf swing. So I hope if your weight shift was sort of a mystery for you before, that helped clear things up a little bit for you. Until next time, I'm Herman Williams, and you've just been Hermanized.